normal practice is that the child, by the time he reaches the age of 7 days, male child, is circumcised. This is at a time when the child doesn't even realize what is going on. The skin is removed, the healing process is very easy. When a person is a grown individual, an adult, that process is no longer a simple process. It becomes an operation. Anesthesia has to be used, all kinds of things, you know. So for an adult, a person who's accepted Islam, you know, this is a pretty scary proposition. The issue is it a must? According to Islamic law, it is not a must for that individual to circumcise himself. If it is convenient to do so, one is able to take off work because it's going to mean that the person will have to, you know, remain confined to the bed or home for some days, maybe a week, until the operation is healed, etc. So if one can conveniently do so without, you know, creating major problems for oneself, or one can afford to have the operation, etc., then one may do so, but it is not a compulsory requirement. Now, why was it initiated? It is part of the covenant recorded. Prophet Abraham circumcised himself at the age of 80 or 80 plus, you know, his latter years, and as a part or a symbol of, according to the biblical references, a symbol of his commitment or accepting the covenant, you know, of God, the responsibility of conveying the message to mankind. But the point is that it was instituted by divine revelation. Prophet Abraham is recorded to have done it, and the prophets following that time have done it. Prophet Muhammad, you know, all of his companions, they practiced circumcision on their children, and some of them on themselves. Now, the principle involved here is, as I said, based on revelation. It's not something which is cultural, so we could say it's just a cultural practice, we can do it or not do it. It is something based on revelation. And the Prophet Muhammad had said that it is a part of the fitrah, or the natural state of the human being, in which he has modified some aspects of how he was created, you know, according to the commandments of God. The other things required of him is to grow his beard and trim his mustache, to clip his fingernails and toenails, and to remove the hair from his underarm and the pubic region. These are all parts of the fitrah. And included along with that was the circumcision. Of course, medically, you know, doctors for a number of years have held and argued that it is medically beneficial that those who have are circumcised have a lower incidence of cancer in that region. And there have been some debates later on, in more recent times, as to how accurate that information was or that position was. But the fact of the matter is that it is done in accordance with divine command. Jesus Christ was recorded to have been circumcised. The prophets before likewise. The righteous have been doing it for thousands and thousands of years. So it is something highly recommended. But for an adult, it is not something which is required of the individual unless he or he wishes to do so himself. The next question from Ajman, Azizul Islam writes, a woman was separated by the khula of a qadi, that is, a judge, Muslim judge. Afterwards, she continued to live with her husband, or ex-husband, that is, believing that he did not pronounce divorce, and this was permissible for her, since he didn't pronounce the divorce. So she could continue to live. If he wished her to continue to live with him, this is permissible. However, in fact, according to Islamic law, she is now in a state of adultery. If khula has taken place, that is, she has instituted or requested divorce through the courts, and the court separates them, because it's really not divorce but annulment, of the marriage, khula, in which case she's required to give back her dowry. What was given to her as dowry, she gives it back. Once the waiting period, the iddah, after the khula or separation has been pronounced by the judge, has completed itself, then she is not his wife. She cannot live with him. He is like a separate human being, and there's no marriage bonds between them. He's like any other person in the street. If she lives with him, she's living in adultery. It's called fornication here in English parlance, but in Arabic or Islamic parlance, she's in a state of adultery, meaning that she's having sexual relations with a man, her having been previously married. Because adultery in Islamic law means a person having sexual relations with other than one's husband or wife, having themselves either been previously married or being in a state of marriage. So this is her circumstance, and she should immediately get out of that situation, stop living with this man, because she's living there with the man in sin. The issue of whether she can remarry him or not, some scholars hold that after khula there's no remarriage. Some hold that it's not no remarriage until she marries somebody else. And if that ends in divorce also, she may remarry that person. Others hold that he may repropose marriage, just as in the case of a single divorce, and remarry her. At any rate, they cannot live together again, at minimum, except after another marriage has been performed. So, it is your duty, brother, Azizul Islam, to instruct this person, if they're family members or friends, that the woman should not be living with this man. Instruct the man also that he is in major sin by staying with this woman. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of the program. I hope you will continue to write in letters with questions for us. And those of you who wish to call may call to the Islamic Information Center in Dubai, 358190, or to the Charity International in Sharjah, 364-111. And your questions might either be answered directly there, or they may be forwarded on to me. You can write me, Dr. Bilal Phillips, here at P.O. Box 111, Sharjah. With that, dear viewers, I bid you all farewell and hope to see you in future programs. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.